Hate to see it botched? Here's the best bits, a Botching It Up podcast short clip.
Rock and Austin are fighting for the championship because The Rock won it at the pay-per-view. In that match, Taker comes down with a shovel and smashes it on Austin's head, causing a DQ. The following week on Raw, and this is when it gets batshit crazy, they show a recap of a house show where Austin collapses. He suffered a concussion from that shot with a shovel that Taker gave him the week before. So Austin isn't at the show, he's at hospital. And we keep seeing him in vignettes all through Raw. And then Undertaker comes in with Paul Bearer and kidnaps him from hospital. They put him into a hearse and they decide they're going to bury Austin alive. I don't sure why Undertaker hates him this much at this point that you'd want to bury him.
That's pretty standard Taker shit, isn't it? Like he tried to bury Mankind, I think, the year before, and then he's burying Austin in this segment, and then the ether comes out from Paul Bearer's pocket, and it's all very normal Taker stuff. I didn't even bat an eyelid at it.
Fair enough.
But then it gets weird.
Yeah, so Paul Bearer decides burying him alive isn't bad enough. We got to do something.
I agree.
We got to do something else. So Taker decides to throw him back into the hearse, and they go to a funeral home. And then they decide they're going to embalm him while he's still alive.
Also, did you notice that the so-called funeral home looks a hell of a lot like what we later see in months to come as the back of so-called Vince McMahon's house?
I didn't notice that, no.
Yeah, it's like the same road that they use currently, where it was the Wyatt Swamp fight and also the Undertaker's AJ Styles match. They get a location, they say, that looks great. Put a gurney there, and that's it.
It's just the same set.
Great. Love it. Well, no, it's from the back instead of the front.
Okay. Okay. So Undertaker starts doing a monologue in tongues. This becomes quite normal later on. Paul Bearer is getting his plastic apron and gloves on and ready. They've got a knife to Austin's chest, and they're gonna cut him open down the chest. Again, this is foreshadowing for later on. And then out of nowhere, Kane runs in and saves the day. Kane starts brawling, and then Austin fights his way off the table, and he survived. They didn't murder him on national TV.
Can you imagine Kane being in the taxi?
What, with Austin on the way home?
What? No, on the way too. Dude, I don't know where I'm going. I can't talk. You need to take me to this funeral home. There's a picture of it on TV right now. I'm going to save somebody being embalmed alive by my brother.
It's crazy. You don't even think about that. But if this was real life, yeah, you'd have to get it.
But this is something that I couldn't quite get over. And I should know better because I'm a wrestling fan. But there were many instances in this entire storyline from this very start to the end where you just think, what the fuck is the cameraman doing?
Oh yeah, the cameraman is completely complicit in this murder that's about to take place.
The embalming, the abduction. I feel like I think they even zoomed in the hanging. It's
So next week on Raw, some druids run out. They're all beating down Austin. They get Austin onto the crucifix, and then the crucifix is raised up into the air with Stone Cold on it, which is a very impressive visual.
Very, very cool. The Taker music playing at the same time as the druids hymning, Austin hanging above, Taker speaking on over the top of all of this stuff happening while he's his eyes are up in his head and he's got his hands up. It was a really amazing image, and I can see why that's been preserved as a moment in history that they still talk about to this day.
I mean, I got goosebumps when it happened, watching it. I was like, that's cool, that's badass. And Austin was saved because he's Austin. He was his face was so angry, and you couldn't hear him, but you could see that he was saying all the curse words he knew.
It'd be interesting to actually fully get into the ministry with you in a minute, because I feel like there was a few key missteps. Maybe they weren't even missteps. It was just there's so much stuff going on that if it had been handled differently or been handled with more importance, we could have seen so many more of these moments.
Yeah, see, I feel at this point in history, there was no plan for the ministry to be this huge stable. I feel like it was just Taker's gone down this devil route and he's speaking in tongues, and someone backstage would be like, it'd be really cool if we do a crucifixion. And to put it over to be this massive thing, we got to put Steve Austin on it.
Also, just like a little bit edgier with the embalming stuff. Taker's the perfect character to really throw and push them into that attitude era where everything's close to the knuckle, which is why I think a lot of the Ministry stuff is so hard to watch now. I feel like Taker was the bastion for a lot of the attitude stuff where they were trying to get away with anything they possibly could, because he's the most viable character to represent elements of violence, danger, and because he's a supernatural character.
Like, share, and subscribe to keep it botched up, brother.